All right. Well, we'll have a chance to talk about technology and related questions as we go along, but we already have some questions from our viewers. Representative Baker, I want to start with you, and that is we've got a couple of viewers who are concerned about the opioid crisis. At least one viewer notes that there's some suggestion in scientific studies that there's a link between legal marijuana use and a reduction in opioid abuse. Wonders about whether or not that might be something worth talking about. But I think let's take the topic more general in addition to that viewer's question and talk a little bit about the problem and what
Sure.
how we might be dealing with it. So,
well, and again, if a lot of the members, I guess, of at least the House know, it's a personal story for me. My wife and I lost our oldest son to opioid addiction about 6 years ago, and so for me, it hits home, and I see things in a different lens than most people. I have really enjoyed working with our colleagues to try to advance the education and the awareness that opioids have had on our communities, especially the medical community, and how they were, in a sense, duped and gotten some bad information early on from some companies that have pled guilty, have had to pay a big fine, and it's something that the medicine is out there now that is really causing a lot of families to go through some horrific things. There is a place for opioids in medicine, and it's got to be controlled very carefully. Short term, it works well when you come out of surgery, you get a broken leg or something, but I will tell you that it's becoming very apparent that there's a lot of overprescribing when it comes through a wisdom tooth that's being done, or long term when people are coming into ER rooms and urgent care. There's just a lot of people getting hooked, unintended. Our doctors never want to hurt anybody. I mean, I truly know that our medical community wants to help, but this is a real crisis. And in Minnesota, we are trying to move some legislation through this year. A lot of it is about education. A lot of it is about controlling how much dentists, for example, will prescribe. We're suggesting a 4-day limit. And again, I think there's some good ideas going on right now, and we also want to, I think anyway, kind of open up the conversation a little bit about the prescription monitoring program again, and when the docs should look at that to see if folks are doctor shopping or not, and just to make sure that this is a legitimate patient that has legitimate pain, because that's a big question out there. So I'm glad we're talking about that. Opioids are something we need to talk about, especially with our young people in schools, and it's just, thanks for bringing that up. I'm glad the caller brought it in.
The viewer had this question about this link between marijuana use. Any comment on that?
I don't really see the connection. I think that I was not in the legislature when they brought in the medical marijuana. I think it's actually well controlled, very, very controlled. I don't have any issue the way it is being handled now. I don't certainly want to expand medical marijuana or certainly go to recreational marijuana. Opioids and addiction are something that are I think, much different than that. So that's my point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jump in on that one.
Absolutely. We'll go around the table. Representative Liebing.
Well, that's great. I actually do think that we should legalize marijuana for personal use. And the reduction in opioid use, this is something that we are seeing from the states that have done this. The problem with our medical cannabis program is that it's extremely limited. Pain is real. People who have chronic pain, that's the other side of this opioid discussion. And there's nothing that Representative Baker said that I disagree with. This is a very serious issue. Cannabis, which I think is a better name for it, is not harmless. However, it is so much less harmful than the stuff that people are often being prescribed. And there's really so little evidence of, and again, it isn't harmless, but that there's so much less harm from using cannabis, and many people have found that this will control their pain. It doesn't work for everybody, but states that have legalized for personal use or made it more freely available are finding less use of opioids and less addiction, and I think less death. And so there are a lot of reasons that I think we should actually legalize cannabis for personal use. This is certainly one of them. It certainly bears looking at.
Yeah. Senator Newton? And I have, issues with that, Representative Liebling, because I'm concerned from your position as law enforcement officer. Is it's very hard to tell if someone is under the influence of cannabis and is driving or operating a vehicle of some sort. There are no tests that we can do that, similar to alcohol. And it probably won't reduce the number of people that are using and are driving, but it really puts a burden on our law enforcement. And until they can come up with some kind of a system or a test that will indicate, whether or not someone is under the influence when they're operating a vehicle, putting others at danger, then it's not something that I support. I used to always tell my kids that they shouldn't start smoking marijuana because it leads to a dangerous drug like cigarettes.
That's right.
So,
Well, nicotine, of course, is a horrendous drug. I've experienced that myself, and in fact, I think you're going to see some legislation coming down to try and raise that minimum limit up to 21 for even tobacco use. But on the marijuana, of course, the opioid thing is certainly terrible. I mean, it's affected a lot of lives, and I myself have recently had surgery, and I think I was, and I suppose my doctor will say he'll get angry at me if he sees me say this, but I was, I had an awful lot of pills in that bottle that I really didn't need. I needed about 3 or 4 of them, so I can understand and see how this has happened and how the abuse has happened, and however they get to the street, or if they get addicted to them, of course, is always terrible, but. Medical marijuana is something that I was always against. I will say, however, that if there's somebody that can get some pain from this, a relief of pain from the medical part of marijuana, I guess who would ever say no to that? But the whole social aspect of marijuana is where I really have a problem. It seems like if we're okay with that in the medical field, then now we want to change it from marijuana to cannabis, calling it whatever we want to do. I've seen the devastation and the family devastation of not only marijuana but alcohol as well. I think that's probably a little early to say that the opioid abuse would actually be reduced with marijuana. I don't know if those numbers are really quite accurate yet, but I do get terrible stories from Colorado and those other states that have legalized it. In fact, there's numbers saying that Colorado actually exports, illegally of course, they go across the line, buy marijuana. 60% of the marijuana grown in Colorado is exported to other states. Now, that tells you there's certainly a want.
Yep.
But nevertheless, the quantitative measuring for the driving under the influence is not there. It simply isn't. And I just hope we'd ever see that, but I know there are some bills floating around.
Well, the question really isn't marijuana or cannabis or no cannabis. The real question is prohibition a policy that really works? And Senator Newton, this kind of goes to your statement. I've seen numbers that Minnesotans are spending about $700 million a year, on cannabis, on the black market. So we have a lot of people using it right now. So all of the things that might be a problem, detecting whether you're under the influence when you're driving, all that's happening now. So the real question is, does prohibition make the problem worse, or could we do better if we had a careful regulatory scheme where we really address these issues? And, we went through an experiment in this country around prohibition of alcohol. And there's a wonderful film that Ken Burns put together. I think it's three different sections, the way he does with his films. If people get a chance to see it, it really lays out the devastation of prohibition of alcohol in this country. Now, we know that alcohol is a terribly dangerous drug. It does all kinds of harm in society. Tons of people addicted, people die, car crashes, the whole shebang, and yet it's legal. Cannabis is less harmful than that, and we really, I'm not saying just, open it up, but we could have regulatory policies, and we could do a better job than we're doing now, and let adults make their own decision around using it for personal reasons.
And I just wouldn't want to see us, continuing to expand things I think are going to lead to other things. Alcohol has obviously been on a long time. The one thing I wanted to mention, maybe back to the Senator's comment about too many pills that you're maybe being prescribed. This weekend, as a matter of fact, is National Take Back Day. So Saturday, in all the communities around our state, we've got from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., bring your extra pills back. So if you've got, extra pills in your medicine cabinet, a lot of our folks around Minnesota are getting their first taste of this through family medicine cabinets. So if we can say one thing tonight, folks, go take a look in your medicine cabinet right now to see if you have things that you don't need anymore, because take them back to the law enforcement center this weekend, but this is the weekend to do it. So I just want to encourage people to watch their meds.
And just so that our viewers are aware, we had a brief discussion earlier this season about the whole subject of recreational marijuana. I think the unanimous consensus of our panel then was that such a bill is not likely to move this session. Would that remain the case now?
In my opinion, yes.
Right.
I certainly would say, too, and just let me make one more comment. I know we don't want to belabor this, but alcohol and tobacco still are, I think, our biggest killers in our state and in our country. It's abuse. It absolutely is abuse. And I guess I would always ask myself, why would we even consider legalizing another potential killer? It just doesn't ring with me at all. So.
The discussion,
I was
Senator
just going
Newman,
to say, I
thought?
think with the change in population and even in our legislature, we're seeing the movement.
Oh, yes.
And this is going to be a lot like Sunday sales. You know, it's coming. It's just a matter of time, I think.
The discussion will continue. We won't resolve it here.
Right.